I've got something really promising for you here today. If you didn't know, Native Instruments has a plugin series called Scene, and they've released a couple of plugins, one called Saffron and one called Lotus, that I have bought myself, both of them, and I have also done dedicated videos on those, and I love them. They're really great for filmmaking textures and scores. I use them all the time for my short film work and my filmmaking work, and I even use them in some of my music, and they're really great for getting a broad texture, cinematic sound. You can do all sorts of stuff with it, and it's extremely customizable. But they released a new plugin in the series called Nightshade, and from what I read, this is supposed to be a more sinister, dark, kind of horror movie vibe style of these plugins. And it's got me really excited because the Lotus was like a Japanese instrumentation style thing. Saffron was just kind of a general cinematic sound. And now Nightshade is supposed to be kind of the dark, evil plugin, if that makes sense. And if you know me, my name is Sinister Bunny, so obviously I'm going to like something that's tailored to be sinister. So I've got the plugin here for you today. We're going to run through it, see what kind of sounds we can get out of it. I'm actually working on a new MIDI controller that I got here from Akai. I'm really excited. I finally got some pads here and a jog wheel and a bunch of knobs and stuff. And this is just, it looks really cool. So we're going to be running some awesome sounds. I'm going to stop running my mouth, and we're going to check out this plugin. So this runs in the Contact Player, which some people hate, some people love. I love it. And this is what we're left with. Nightshade is a green theme, which I think is really cool. Saffron was orange, Lotus was purple. Now Nightshade is green. And I guess at the default, let's see kind of what sound we have at the default position here, huh? Already a dark, eerie sound. I'm actually going to turn this up a little bit. So it's got that kind of texture sound that comes with a lot of the samples I think are in these plugins, where there's kind of an overlap in tonality. So you can get some eerie stuff in here, which is the default sound, to be honest. But as you can see over here on the left, there is a ton of presets, and I'm not going to go through every single one of these here today, but I'm going to check out a couple of them. So before I do that, I'm going to show you just the plugin overall. It's pretty much the same as Saffron and Lotus if you've already messed with those. You've got this box here where you can kind of change this circle around and mess with your sound. So if I got something going here, so left and right, I believe, blends from A to B because there's two different sample sounds here. Yep, it just crossfades them, or you can have it stack where A leads into B and adds more B into it, and vice versa. And then up and down here also changes some of the macros, I think. I think it's different for each sound. So you can see the dials down there as I move this up and down kind of shift. So there's ways that you can change the sound. Like if I go into my settings here and the x-axis right here is set to C11, I'm actually going to change that to one of my knobs here on my new keyboard. So now I can go back and play something and adjust my knobs and adjust that either live or just to kind of fine-tune a sound. Really, there's limitless possibilities of sounds and textures that you can create with this. And that's kind of one of the big cool things with this. A lot of plugins do it, but it works really well in this. At the bottom, you can see you've got your macros, which attack, release, motion. You've got mask, tape, dimension, quads. And some of these change just depending on the presets as well. At the top with A and B, you've got a list of all the different sounds you can kind of mix together and what you can essentially just customize with all of these different sounds. And you've got a dice here to like randomize. It can just randomly give you some kind of sound. It just throws stuff together and gives you something unique. And you can that sounds cool. Sounds like a trailer thing. But yeah, you can adjust the sound with a bunch of different parameters. And in the settings, you got some aftertouch stuff with tuning and motion, mask, whatever those mean. Don't ask me now. Octaves, legato. You can change the key if you really want. They got all these keys that you can change so that if you're playing something, no matter what you're playing, it'll keep you in the key. Even if you hit a note that's not in the key, it'll correct your note for you, kind of like auto-tune. So now that the overlook is finished and you've learned kind of what this plugin looks like for the most part, now we can get to some of the fun sounds and check out some of the presets, because I know that's what you've been waiting for this entire time. So I'm going to look for some cool names and see what kind of sounds we can get. Let's look at Before the Fall. What does that sound like? Out of range. There we go. Nothing too crazy unique. Let's check out Chaos Cloud. That's gonna just sound like noise, I'm guessing. There's a little something in there. But this is, I got a feeling this is going to be a lot of like ominous textures, because I think it's meant for like that cinematic pad texture sound. So not necessarily a bunch of harmonic value, but just like soundscapes, if that makes sense. Ooh, chatters. I like that. Sounds like people whispering and stuff. That's cool. I like that one. That one's pretty cool, actually. Chthonic Friend. Is that supposed to be like a Cthulhu thing? So that's pretty cool. It's nothing sticking out crazy yet, in my opinion. This one's cool. That's pretty cool. That one's definitely different. Let's look up, what's Death Valley? What does that sound like? There's some cool sounds in here. What I'm hearing again is definitely that overlap of like samples and textures from some of the other plugins. So really where you're going to want to do things is like make it custom to how you want to really tailor a sound. What's Dystopia? Let's look up Dystopia. I like this one. It's got a good amount of choir effect in there. No, this one's pretty cool. This one's pretty cool. It's nothing like again, nothing texture-wise is really sticking out to me just yet. I mean, a little worried possibly. There's some interesting sounds, but again, I feel like okay, this one's cool. I like Ghostly Void. I'll have to start starring these as I go through. Yeah, that one's cool. Okay, that's a cool sound. Darkness and the Unseen. What else do we got? Neural interference. Let's try that. That's pretty cool. Okay. Ominous rhythm. Oh. That's cool. Sounds like demons laughing almost. What's it? Down lower, what do we got? That is one thing that does shine with these, is it does kind of have a different sound range across the keyboard, and I'm limited to 25 keys because I don't have a full keyboard here, so I kind of have to go through the octaves to really see what else they have. Pentagram, eh? Let's go down an octave. Low and ominous. I really like that Vox Arcana sound with like the whispers and stuff. That's really cool. Phantasm Flux. Okay. Restless Souls. Okay, so I'm starting to catch on a little bit to what some of this is. Shadow Maelstrom. It's got like wind. It's just, woo! That chaos preset thing up there, that chaos sample is crazy. Spectral Lament. Hold up, I wanted to save that Shadow Maelstrom. So Spectral Lament. This is creepy. I like this one. Ooh, I like this one a lot. I'm going to keep that. Let's go down low. What do we got? Nothing crazy. Okay. It was cool, though. I liked that. The Dark. Mist. Is this like the movie The Mist? Okay. Okay. Oh. So, I think I'm picking up a theme here, like I said, 5 or 6 times now. Okay, the void is pretty cool. Veil of Dread. That's got to be promising. Maybe. Okay, it's pretty cool. Okay. Let's try one more. Because we've tried a lot. Okay, I like this one a lot, actually. This one's pretty cool. Okay, so we're done with the presets, I think, for now, because the theme that I'm catching with this one specifically is, yes, there's harmonic value and melody in some of these, but a lot of the sounds are just like for building an atmosphere, I think, more so than a melody or a tune. And I think that's kind of the big point with these scene plugins in the first place, is that they're textures and they're like broad strokes meant to have other pieces added. So when I'm working on my darker music that's like for my filmmaking and stuff, it's like more soundtrack stuff and soundscapes, I do a mix of plugins and stuff. And in Saffron and Lotus I've used as kind of a groundwork and foundation that I add other things on top of. Because, like I said, they're very broad stroke plugins, I think, and they all have their own value and their own unique sounds. What I do notice is I think there are some very similar overlapping samples and stuff with these 3 plugins that I'm noticing, and that maybe is like, it is what it is, I guess, in terms of like getting something different and unique with each plugin. Like Lotus was definitely unique from Saffron because there was some other instrumentation and stuff in there, and yes, there was that overlap, but they were kind of distinct. This I also think is distinct in its own way, and in the sense that it's much more abstract than the other 2. Like, there is melody and stuff in here. Some of these you can definitely get some chords and some very apparent melodies if you want to, but from what I've tried so far, it's very much centered around a soundscape and an atmosphere, and creating just drones and just padded textures as broad strokes, if that makes sense. I could be just saying nonsense, but I'm trying to explain as best as I can. But this is perfect for creating an eerie, dark, ambient soundscape for maybe parts of music, or I honestly think it applies more to filmmaking for myself. This would be something I would use to create atmosphere and music for a horror, dark, creepy, sinister short film or something like that. It gives that vibe. All the sounds are really cool. I like the voice chattering stuff with the people whispering, and some of the textures in here are really, really cool. Like the chorus umbre, that one I thought sounded really cool. Because it's a choir. In a way, it's a choir. But then you got Crying Souls. Like, it's eerie. It's not super like tonal. It's kind of atonal in a way. Yes, I'm playing notes and stuff, but there's an atonal quality to it that harkens to, again, soundscapes. Not necessarily straight music, but soundscapes and sound effects if that makes sense. Now, again, these aren't expensive plugins or anything. Like, they're $29 a piece. I think they're worth it. Seeing that I have two uses for them, I add them to my music for both metal music making and my soundtrack and soundscape music making for my filmmaking projects and stuff like that. So these are definitely worth it. This one maybe didn't quite meet my expectations so far. And again, I got to go through more presets and I got to like fine tune my own sounds and stuff like that. But from what I've heard so far, there's still a lot of that overlap from the other two plugins that maybe doesn't make it as unique, but there's definitely some unique aspects in this. Do I think it's worth it for $29? Yeah. I think like the Scene series is really cool, and I'll probably continue to get them unless they really just start sounding exactly the same. But I think each of them have been somewhat unique enough to differentiate between the three, but there is definitely a lot of overlap, in my opinion. I could be wrong, but just to my ears, that's what it sounds like. And this is really cool. It gets me excited to make soundtracks, is what it does. And just the idea of it being Nightshade, dark, sinister, evil, stuff like that, obviously harkens to my interest. So I really like this a lot. I'll leave a link to it down in the description, as well as a link to my new MIDI keyboard if you want to pick one of those up, because this thing is really sweet. And yeah, if you have any questions about this, or Saffron or Lotus, let me know down in the comments. I think these are really cool plugins. I like what they're doing. They're not charging an arm and a leg for them, so you can only expect so much, but they do provide a value. It may not be just straight musical with Nightshade, but in terms of a filmmaking world for making soundscapes and soundtracks, or maybe you just want to make ambient, dark, hour-long songs or something, that can be your thing too. I think this is really good for that. I can update more down the road, and I'll probably use it a lot more in future projects as I dive deeper into it, but on a first glance, scratching the surface, didn't quite meet my expectations and the hype I had for it, but I am glad that I got it. So, thank you guys so much for liking, commenting, and subscribing, and I will see you in the next video. Stay metal, my friends.